works. Oh, you might have heard the little playback there. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Slow Games Club. As you can see, I'm here with some new friends. If you don't know, this is a Games Club book club. So we play a different game every month, and we just have a little yap about it. If you sign up, you get access to our Discord, where you can talk about all the different games and come back and watch the videos if you miss them. I'm your host, Jazeena. You'll be stuck with me every single month. So you better get tucked in. For this month and next month, I have an amazing guest, Julia. Julia, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Julia Minamata. I am a solo indie game dev. I'm based in Toronto, Canada, and I released my first game, which is the Crimson Diamond, last August 2024. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that it's a mystery, it's a text parser mystery adventure game with a retro game look. Like it's the stuff. Well, it's this stuff back here. There's the little gal. This is Nancy Maple. Yes, this thing. Yeah, so that's that. But I also worked on other games. I've done game art for other games. I've done 3 games with Strange Scaffold, Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator, Witch Strandings, and Recommendation Dog. And that one's for Playdate, which I also got to art direct on. So my angle with stuff is mostly like a game dev and also art, because that's kind of my focus. But yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you so much, Jazz.
I need to work on my intro. Julia, that intro was absolutely amazing.
I've done this a lot.
It was just like, yeah, I'm Jazz and I do stuff. Julia's here to understand the games better than I can, because otherwise you're just questions about vibe. Anyway, on to why you're actually here. This month we are joined by EggNut. EggNut, goodness gracious, it started already. And Nikita is here to introduce our game of the month.
Hi there. My name is Nikita Danshin. I am a co-founder of EggNut, and today we're going to be talking about Tails Noir, a neo-noir detective adventure about a raccoon detective in a retro-futuristic city of Vancouver.
A very cute little raccoon. Can we just say? The first thing I noticed when I opened the game was like, these little animals are so cute. I have a confession that I will get back to in a minute. But my first question is a very important question. It's probably the most important question we're going to have today. And I'm actually going to ask it to both of you. I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. But Nikita, if you had to choose a character that you most identified with, which one would it be?
Oh, okay. So, to be honest, there are a few characters that I really, really like. I'm just gonna be very, very straight, because like Howard is really, really like relatable. He's goofy. He is not really smart. He's like 25, 27, and he's just like trying to figure out his life. He doesn't have things together. Like he doesn't have anything together, to be honest.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, he's kind of like he finished his art school. He's just doing something that's completely unrelated to what he studied. He's just a detective from an art school. He doesn't have a police education or anything. And he's just like, I really like the way he talks, because he is just like, boop, beep, oh, got your nose. Oh, that's mine. And he's just like, he's ridiculous. And that's very relative, because like we see a lot of characters in video games that are very serious, are like extensively obnoxious, not something that people don't do in real life. And he's actually trying to figure out what is going on, and sometimes he's silly about it. So like that's really down to earth. That's really what people are these days. He's really I would say a millennial main character. He is. he sounds like that. He feels like that.
I was gonna wait for questions, but while we're talking about Howard, Waver said, I didn't even realize this, and this is why I giggled at it. Why has Howard got half an ear?
That's a secret lore.
Secret lore. Okay, are we gonna come back to it, or was it top secret lore?
Yeah. There are some technical issues with that ear because, like, in the early versions of the game, we patched it out. But like in the first times when we released the prologue, the demo for the game, sometimes when he turned, the ear flipped from like this sprite to this sprite because like that's the issue with 2D games, because like it's not a 3D, it's not as set in stone location, right? And we turn him, the sprite turns vertically, horizontally, and like the ear also moves. So like there was a real long discussion in fan community, like, so is it left ear or right ear?
I am like actually gobsmacked, and like I'm like, what? And Julia's like,
oh no, this is the thing. So when you have any game, and anyone who's ever done any art or animation for games, when you see a character that's got an asymmetrical look, like if they've got like a hand that's different, or their hairstyle is like asymmetrical or something, we're like, yes, there's a little bit of like respect there, because we all know how much work that is when you're doing 2D art, that you have to do a left hand facing piece of art and a right hand facing piece of art for that character. You can't just flip it, because then it's you're gonna have that which side of the ear is damaged and everything. So yeah, much respect whenever that happens, because we all know how much work it is. So good on you.
Kudos to animator Kirill who made it. Thank you.
Julia, I put you on the spot a little bit there. It was the question was a surprise to me. So was there anyone that when you played it through that you really related to as well?
What's interesting, because I kind of am with Nikita on this, in that when we think of an adventure game hero, or any type of game hero, like even a video game hero, we always think of someone who's very brave, and even if they might not be the most accomplished, then they're just going to do the right thing and be the person that disrupts the world and does all the stuff. But the character it's characters that I relate to in the game that we don't even really see that much. It's like people who work at the factory, who are like just trying to get by, and they don't have the wherewithal to try to like overturn the system and uproot everything. And I think we'd all like to think we'd be that person, and I know I'm not that type of person. So when I think of games like this, I'm like, yeah, who would I be if I was in this world? I would be someone working at the factory just trying to get by. So I totally resonated with me to see that aspect of society, because I think a lot of us are like that, and I will admit to it too.
I think that's really interesting. And I'm gonna admit my very embarrassing thing now, just because you'll understand. So I somehow, I'm blaming Brandon, by the way. Brandon, if you're listening, this is your fault. I played the preludes thinking that this is what we were talking about today. So I played that, and then today realized that's not what we're talking about. So I had all the questions for the prelude, and I panicked. I was like, God, this is so wrong, because I like was like near the end, and I was like, something isn't like, I feel like I'm so confused, and then I realized that I played the prelude, so I have to.
You played the preludes, so you know what actually happened in the world before we play Tails Noir.
Which is really interesting. So then I had to today at like 1:00. I completed the game, but like I was like, oh my God. So my next question, and the reason why I went into that ramble, is one of my favorite little sides, like characters, is the guy in the preludes who just like sat covered in snow waiting for Buzz to come and say hi to him. And I don't know why that character spoke to me. But then I think that made me realize, playing, the one I'm supposed to play, just how much character all these little side characters had. You just want to know them more. And I was just wondering, Nikki, if there's any of the little side characters that were your favorite, or ones that had like little secret lore, like any little secrets about any of these side characters that we might miss, but we really should know about.
So there are a lot, because like some characters are actually community characters. Like I remember when we were making Renee, we we talked with the community. Is that a fox? Is that X, Y, Z? And like like the game Tails Noir was actually somehow an open development project a little bit. We did interact with the community a lot and just like, do you guys like this? And because it's also a Kickstarter funded project originally, before Raw Fury came in and helped us out with the rest of the things that were happening there.
Thank you, Raw Fury.
Thank you, Raw Fury. Like that thing wouldn't happen without Raw Fury at all. But like when we did Kickstarter, some characters were actually bought by Kickstarter funders. So there are some characters that there are some friends in there. I remember the tuna in Gastown, which is actually a real
one
life
on the
location
wall
in Vancouver. Yeah,
yeah.
was like that. That is my ex-boss, who actually a little bit funded, like extra funded this development too. My ex-boss, whose name is. I actually won't name him. Oh, sorry.
I was like, I mean, what are you going to say?
I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that. His last name is it doesn't have an R in it. And like I remember someday a person came into the office and mispronounced that name and called him Tuna. And from that on, he was called Tuna. And then like he has asked, can you make a Tuna character in your game? I'm just gonna pay for that character. Can you make a Tuna in like, because like you have animals in your game? So like we did that character.
So I could have been in the game. This is a joke. Why am I just finding it out now?
Yeah. Or for example, there are a couple of very great furry activists in the game, in the section under the bridge, where there are a lot of refugees. You talk, and they're actually in that section. There are a bunch of our friends. There are a bunch of people from the community as well. So like if you talk to them, you actually talk to a real person that has embedded their personality in that.
Okay, so in the credits, there's credits for additional writing. So are those the people that were the characters under the bridge?
No, those are the people who worked with us. It's actually like it took us. We started the development of the game in the summer of 2017. And as that progressed, we released in 2021. And there are a lot of people who came on board and wrote for us and just moved on. I remember there was a great person who worked with Maludi, and she just moved on after the project. I think we lost contact altogether, and she did a bunch of writing for us as well. There are, for example, Martin Hanses, who did additional writing for us, and then he went on to write Preludes, the next installment in the game. He just came to our team very, very late before like the end of the production for this title. So there's just like a lot of people who did something for us.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that community aspect under the bridge, I found like super like emotional and really nice. This idea that they're accepting of him in any form that he is. I think that was a really nice message.
It was really lovely. One of my favorite characters under there, and I don't know why I kept going back to talk to them every time I could, and I can't remember their name. The one managing the garden.
Oh,
I can't remember his name. I'm really bad at names, and I just felt he was really lovely.
I forgot the name of the character that's today, but I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Was there anything that like you put in the game that you thought was going to be really easy, but just turned into be a massive pain in the butt?
Pixel art. Don't. If you think it's easy, don't ever do pixel art. It's like it's the hardest thing. Like all are, especially if you add anything to it, like complicated layers of additional environments, because like that changes in scale. For example, Howard is scaled 2 centimeters per pixel, so which makes him 87 pixels, which makes him 170. I don't know math.
I'm gonna not agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So like a lot of characters are like follow the same principle. But then if you go to the backgrounds are not the same way. We didn't draw backgrounds this way because like pixel art doesn't look great when it's scaled down and like moved backwards. So like everything is redone. Like every single scene is from the scratch, and like the dimensions, everything is just like completely different. We've made a presentation on Unreal Indie Dev games, Unreal Indie Dev Days. And we talked about how we did our art, and there's a lot of issues with perspective, light. There's a lot of technical art, and the way the pixels are lit up when characters walk through the dynamic lights, for example. There's just so much. I would say that the pixel art is the selling feature of the game. Would I ever do it again? Maybe.
Wow. That's really interesting because I come from this idea that pixel art is like one of the easiest things to execute, and but I will say that in combination with all that other stuff you're talking about, like particle effects and lighting and shadow and those gorgeous water effects that we will get to, I guess that the integration of those two things, I was wondering when the team was looking at how they would want to execute this game visually, was there another game that they were looking at saying this is the type of thing, this odd blend between the Unity shaders and pixel art? Was there anything you were looking at saying, we want to achieve that effect? Or did you completely blaze a new trail here?
It's both, to be honest. Like we started summer 2017. We were like, we were playing with Unreal Engine at the moment, and just like I remember after the game was concepted and like what we wanted to do, I drew the very first version of Howard. I'm not gonna show it to you.
It's
bad.
No, we want to see it.
And I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in the web. Anyway, the very first versions of Howard, I drew them, I animated him, and like I put him in Unreal Engine. I'm just like, let's take this light and put it on the scene. So I done this, and we're just like, this is what we're gonna do. This is like, it's very easy, very simple. We're just gonna do that. We're just gonna do that. And then there were a few projects online that were just like coming up and trying to utilize the same thing: 2D, 2.5D plus dynamic lighting. There's obviously like Octopath Traveler, right? And there are more and more coming up like right as we speak, right? And I don't know if we were among the first ones who published something like this, but there was so much trial and error there because nobody knows how to do this. Nobody actually, there are no guidelines, as with anything in game development, to be honest. But like there are no guidelines on how to properly process pixel art and dynamic lighting, right? Or like any other like visual effects, shaders and stuff like that. And we had like our great technical artist Radu. You're the greatest. And that was a lot of process to figure out. And we actually were like working through it as we were making the game. Even though we made the prologue and continue on next acts, we were constantly redoing this. Constantly. And even the art and technology that is behind Preludes is completely different than what we have in Tails Noir. Because in Preludes, we actually use a bit of 3D there, for example, in sections in where the scientists are.
If anyone,
I'm not gonna do any spoilers. Where the scientists are.
If anyone's just joined, there's a bit of context. So you have Tails Noir, but you also have Preludes, which gives you how your amazing main characters got to where they were. It's really funny. When I played Preludes, I was like, "Oh, I really like Clarissa," because I kind of learned more about her. And then I made her do something a bit insane, but I won't spoil it. And then when I was playing through the beginning half of Tails Noir, I was like, oh, this woman is evil. We'll leave it there. I think we were talking about like surprises, and you said the pixel art really surprised you at how difficult it was. Was there anything that you put in the game as you thought it was going to be a small thing, but your community surprised you. They were like, I love this. And that became bigger than what you expected it to be.
Howard and Larry relationships.
I know.
They really like. We did create Larry on accident, because like we need a character in the behind the bar, the by bar. So like we needed a character there that would help Howard either to get inside or like to figure something out or like give him some kind of clues. And like there was originally a completely different character who was like insane, and we just like replaced that and put Larry there and like made them friends. And eventually Larry did get like more play in the game, but like the community liked him so much. And then when we released the game, we're just like, they really like this couple. They really want to know more what happened before. And we're just like, okay, this is what we're going to show in Preludes for sure. We have to.
And I'm so glad that I accidentally played Preludes, because when I met Larry in Tails Noir, I was like, I didn't finish Preludes because I panicked and had to play, the game we discussed today. So now I need to go back and finish it to see, because I'm like, how did he get here? Like, how did he become? My heart kind of broke for Larry. It's a sign of good game when you get emotionally attached to characters that you kind of don't really expect to, right?
Yeah, Larry is definitely like a great call from the past for Howard, and he is a great image of how like you just don't know where you end up in life, even though he was a very sociable and great person in like the Preludes. And like, how did he manage to get there? That's up for you to figure out.
I went through your Discord because this is what I do. Okay, so I want to know things, and one of the characters that seemed to like have touched hearts in a way was Ruse, and I was shocked. I was like, this random little like bug rat thing, and and I saw like you have people that do fan art for him, and I thought that was really cool. Did you expect the impact that the characters would have?
I don't think you can ever do that unless you're like very, very extensively, I don't spend time developing this character for a very particular, community or something. Then yeah. But like the thing is that like we didn't even know that we're catering to furries when we made the game. We just like the game came out from a very random story about like how raccoons stormed my backyard, and like from that moment we're just like, okay, we're gonna make a game about raccoons.
Okay, yeah. So Jazz, we made.
You can't drop that type of lore really casually. So I'm gonna ask the question properly. How did you get the idea for the game? And now you have to go into that with a lot more detail.
Yes.
Rewind and give us that.
We were making a sci-fi horror.
Wait, stop.
We were making a sci-fi horror about like a rogue AI that steals your brain, puts you into a digital version of hell, and you have to get out of it. So like we were discussing this game, and at some point, a bunch of like I lived on the first floor of an apartment complex with a bunch of trees and bushes in there, and like I had my compost outside, and periodically random creatures appear. And like we were on a call with Alex and a person who was on the team, Andrew, before that, and we were on the call talking, and like I'm just like, guys, hold on, I gotta go and like scare off the raccoon. So I take a trumpet that I had borrowed from a friend. I was learning trumpet at that moment. So like I take a trumpet and I open my door and start tooting out, like trying to scare them away, because I don't want to lose my garbage like all over the backyard of like the community, but I also don't want to be too rude
Aggressive.
to a raccoon.
To the raccoon.
Yeah. So they ran away. I see like a bunch of like, I don't know, 6 eyes, like, like those acid green colors just like looking at you in the night. And I come back, sit on my desk. The guys are laughing their asses off. We're just like, we're just making the game about the raccoon. So we're like, okay. And then we figured out that we're gonna make a game about like, it's kind of like a GTA clone where a bunch of raccoons fight for control over the garbage in the city, and you play as one of the raccoons. And then eventually, Slavic depression just got out, and like Alex poured out her whole soul into this. And then we're just like, let's put him in a trench coat. And then, oh, that's a detective. Oh, that's definitely a game that has to be in Vancouver. Okay, this is what it is. And now it just like went off.
I honestly am speechless right now. Like, there's so much I want to unpack, but also I know Julia's got some really good questions that I think will expand on. I don't even know. I'm mind blown. Okay, so one more question, and then I'm going to hand over to Julia to ask. My question is just about vibes. And I guess, so I know that you mentioned, and I'm just going to take on something that you said. So you got raccoons, right? So that's how you got to your raccoons. I know a lot of the side characters were from your community. So with Clarissa and Renee, funny story, my sister's called Renee, and I showed her. I was like, look, if you were a fox, this is what you look like. She was like, I don't know how I feel about that. It kind of looks like me, but it doesn't, and it kind of freaked her out. She's also 13, so she's a bit sassy. So, what was my question? How did you settle on a bear for Clarissa, the fox for Renee? Is there secret lore about that too?
I think that Renee, we've actually figured it out with the community, and Clarissa is just like a natural development of like, first of all, Alex did a lot of research on how crime families just like exist. What do they do? How do they work? And like how people who are underrepresented perform in those places. And then like eventually Clarissa was built as a white bear, and she's actually technically not a white bear. She's a bear that has like color. I forgot how that's called. I'm so sorry. She doesn't have pigment in her hair, basically. So she's actually a black bear.
Oh, wow.
She's
albino.
an albino bear.
Yeah.
We both did that complete different, and I'm definitely wrong.
No, I was like, I'm wrong. You're British, I'm wrong. I'm a colony.
Most of the creatures that you see in the game are relevant to Vancouver area. 95% of those creatures are only Vancouverite creatures, and there's a reason for that. There's a lore reason for that.
And you're going to tell us right now?
No.
It's secret lore?
It's so much a secret that like it actually doesn't exist anywhere in the game. Because if I'm going to open up, I'm going to give so many spoilers right now. Spoilers to both Preludes and the game as well. Like, the reason why
the lore.
Yeah, the reason why those creatures are like mostly Vancouverites and they're only apes who are controlling the city is because lore. Spoilers. So
after this, I'm going to keep you here and I'm going to ask you about spoiler questions that you're
I'll tell you
us,
everything.
and I'm going to put them in the Discord. And one of the things I want to say is that if there's anything questions that are too spoilery, I like to try and kidnap the devs after it's live, and then ask it, and then put it in Discord and black it, like when you censor it. So if you want to see the spoilers, you can. If not, Julia, I know you've got a few questions that you would like to ask. Do you want to crack on?
Yeah. So going back to the setting of Vancouver, and we don't have to get into the lore aspect of it, but knowing how, well, I mean, not now, but later. But going into the decision for London, for Vancouver, and how it did pretty much kick off the entire idea of what the character is going to be like, the genre, and all that. Including, and I also want to dial it back even to the pixel art we were talking about, where you've got these incredible cityscapes that add everything to the setting and the atmosphere. Was there a lot of reference taken from buildings in Vancouver to create that pixel art, those pixel art cityscapes? First, that's one part of the question. And the second part of the question is, knowing that you were living in Vancouver and stuff, how much of that vibe of that city went into what eventually became Tails Noir?
Right. So we did. Me and another artist from the team, we were just like walking around taking photos, obviously, of like the environments, and like most of our art team was in Russia at that moment, right? And it's like we are just a team of friends who just like started making things together, right?
Wow.
And I'm a Russian immigrant in Canada, and like I've been here since I was 16, I don't know. And I would just like randomly found a friend online, and we just like started making a game, and we just walked around, took photos, and sent photos to people who have never been to this city, and they basically started making, does this look right? Does this look right? So we started making, and like a lot of actually Vancouver newspapers picked it up. The vibe is something, considering that this is retro-futuristic project, considering that it's noirish, we've actually had to go back to history of Vancouver, because Vancouver actually was a pretty much, it is still, but it was a very gangster and noir city back in the 50s. So we had to go back and learn a lot about how that was happening. We like there are a bunch of great books. I could like put them on in references sometime later, which discuss about how noir story of Vancouver is obviously different from Chicago, LA, and like New York, where like obviously the most noirish issues happened. But like Vancouver was different, and we picked that image of that Vancouver in that area, and just like started putting it into the game.
I could like, this is why I put in the chat that none of my friends want to make games with me, but I think I'm the problem. Like, it's just amazing having that, I guess, that vision, if that makes sense. Do you have anything else you'd like to ask?
Yeah, and also the something to do with, in concert with the pixel art being that we mentioned before, Nikita, that when you had the resolutions for the pixel art and how that had to change for the sprites versus the backgrounds, those incredible backgrounds. I mean, how many artists did you have working at the time when you had the most artists on that, and how long were these backgrounds being taken to develop?
Okay, let's count them. We had only one animator.
Wow.
For the
Wow.
whole game.
Okay.
Our artists were Julia Toma, the lead director on this project. We had Christina. That was the start, and then we had few people coming on board later. I think in total we had 5 people working. Like that's the most. I don't remember properly, but I think that's the 5 people for art, 1 person for animation, and 2 developers.
Wow.
Me on audio, and like Alex writing stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the shop interiors are a different resolution to the city backgrounds versus the sprites. I feel like so all those having to work together seems like a lot of like adjusting and figuring things out. Was that a discussion that you had at any point? I guess it had to happen really early on in development. What resolution everything was going to be in, right? I mean, what did you start something simpler and it gradually became something much more complicated?
Yeah, and we're just like, this is just what we're gonna do, and like, okay, so like this is his height. Okay, that means that the buildings are gonna be this height and stuff like that. So like we developed Prologue in this way, at least like the very first demos of it, and then when professional people who actually know about art came on board, like I was mentioning Toma, Christina, and like they came in and just like, this is just not gonna work. Like this looks ugly. We're just like, oh no. So we were constantly developing this. For example, in a great example in first act, when you go in the bar and when there's a puzzle with moving picture fragments, in a
In the
dressing room, in a dressing room, yeah, in a locker room. So like if you look on the sides of the walls, the pictures that are hanging there are not actually like square pictures that we turned around. There are actually just like rectangles, weirdly shaped things. So like we constantly had to figure out how to put things in 3D environment that just doesn't look like crap.
that's very interesting. Like, was there anything? What like in regards to art style? What do you think changed the most from prototype to game release? Like, was there any characters, any building sets that were completely different when you set out?
Oh, I don't know. I think everything. But like, if you would see how in Act One we have more particle effects. In Act One, we have more things like glass. Then like as you go further down Act 3 and 4, the time goes on, we're just like, we're gonna release this. So we put more effort into 2D art as we moved on and on and on. So like there are obviously a lot of tech art done, there are a lot of lighting work that's done, and that's actually something that have been changing. Lighting have been changing up to the very end, because it's just like that particular about it.
That's really
So
interesting. I maybe I'm not an artist. I didn't notice that, you're saying that you couldn't do stuff because of time. I didn't notice that. The whole game looks deliberate and impressive. The art is something new.
it is deliberate.
It was, yeah, we just didn't have time. It was on purpose. Julia?
Yeah, I think related to that, and just that you mentioned the difficulty dealing with the shaders and the lighting and the shadow, in combination with the pixel art. Most of the navigation in the game happens from like left to right. You're just you're moving horizontally through spaces. And was that a game design decision that was made early on to say like, we need to make this simpler for ourselves in a way, because otherwise having to try to do 3D and 2D together is going to be just way too much work. We're going to simplify that aspect. Was that a conversation?
Do you remember, like, we originally wanted to make I think the reason why we made the adventure in the first time is that like I played Night in the Woods and Oxenfree at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And originally we wanted to have more dynamic map so that player could walk around, ask more questions, come back to the area, realize whatever they have to realize, and have some kind of like more of a point and click experience when you just like walk around, find something, come back, put it on. And then we're just like, this is not what we want to do. We were just like, it felt just like pokey. You just like point and click basically, right? And we're just like, we kind of don't want to do it. We still ended up doing it. But like, because like you cannot make an adventure another way. You can, but anyway. There are no mechanics of shooting. There are no mechanics of anything else. Like this whole game is dialogue, right? There is a bit of stealth that basically disappeared in the second half of the game because I was too tired of doing additional game design things and nobody else wanted to do that. So we're just like, let's do what we do best. Let's do dialogue. So we did dialogue instead of stealth at the very end. So like that's how like you'll see how game changes there.
That's interesting. You would think that was on purpose, and for someone like I'm usually not the biggest fan of stealth just because I'm impatient. The stealth that was in there I enjoyed because it had a purpose, it felt natural, and I didn't notice that you just didn't do it in the end. Maybe I'm just a really bad gamer, I'm not sure.
A lot of complaints that we get about the game is that like there is less and less game design as you go on. There's less and less gamey elements that are considered gaming. So there is no stealth at the very end, and that's because we just didn't have capacity to do it. We were tired. But like what I was answering was that like it was intended to be kind of an open map where you could walk around. That's why there's actually a map in Howard's office that you could look into. A map of freaking Vancouver, and like if the leftovers of that is you can walk into the alley on Granville in the first level. You can walk into the alley, and we wanted to be able to walk this way. We just didn't have time.
This is the lore that I love, but it's very interesting because as someone playing it, who I guess I don't make games, so I might have a different perspective of someone that makes games. It felt deliberate that you moved to the narrative. I think it really suited the feel of the game. At the beginning, it's figuring these things out, and then towards the end, it's tying those ends together, and it felt natural. Is what I'm saying. I think it's good. I liked it. Enough of my waffling. Julia, do you have any actual good questions to ask?
Well, I think a lot of my questions are very self-serving in that I want to ask questions that I could potentially benefit from. You mentioned, you had this crowdfunding campaign, and so was that your first experience with the crowdfunding campaign? And would you consider something like that in the future? And if so, what would you change?
We did Kickstarter, right? I don't personally, as somebody who was involved in business, I don't believe Kickstarter works for games anymore unless you have a huge following, right? Unless you are like, I don't know, you're making a remake of something very big that is expected by people. I don't know. But for us, we actually worked a lot on the Kickstarter, just making a trailer for it. It took 3 months of development from the whole studio, making assets, making like whatever backer support there should be, answering the backers, talking to them, making like marketing for the Kickstarter. So like it was just like we just specifically spent 3 months on Kickstarter, whole team. So would I do this? I don't want to do Kickstarter because it's a lot of liability, and you don't know if the game is going to come out, and it might not be fair to backers, and it's still a lot of things that have to be done after you release the game, and you don't know if the game is going to be successful. If it's released, will you be able to fulfill all the things that you promised? You don't know. And like it took a lot of just like energy while making the game to come back to all of this and like work through this. It did a lot of great things. Like we got feedback, we got people who are interested in the game and could do like some testing with us and like give us some feedback. That's amazing. And obviously communication with the community, making the characters together. That's great. Kickstarter, Julia, for you, just go to Ontario.
That's why I'm asking.
Just go to the government. Like, whatever you pay taxes wise, just like take it back. Do that. But like, I am really considering open development and make it maybe like whatever Caves of Cod did. They were making their game. They opened up a cash app. I don't know what kind of like application they used, but like they opened up an application where people could just like subscribe to them and give them like $1 a month. I would do that rather than just like doing a Kickstarter, because like that way you're actively working with the community, and I think that's a bit more fair. But it's a very complicated like business discussion that we need like a separate stream
like
for that.
Like a separate podcast just to talk about. This is such a swerve, right? And this is what I do in I guess tone, and this is just a bit random. So I have like a few favorite bits of the game, right? And one of them is smelling things. I like smelling things.
Yep.
I've got this is a two-part question, right? So in my notes, it is literally and then the other thing was the desk and how Howard like just got really obsessed with stroking the desk. Like, why? What like what was like I like these little quirky things. I just wondered, how do things like that, these little random quirks, the smelling things obsessively, stroking desks
I
obsessively,
like making
how did it,
tea. Making tea
yeah,
was
and
amazing.
making tea, yeah, like how do those things, like how did it get in the game? I want to know random things, and I this is what I want to, why, just why.
So let's talk about, like, I'm gonna talk about smell. It's gonna be a 10-minute discussion because
Wow.
smell is supposed to be a smell-o-vision. It's supposed to be. Do you remember I was talking about a horror game? We were trying to figure out a new sense mechanics. Like, we were talking about how wind could like send particles of your character to the enemies so they can smell you. So the player would have to rely on wind and figure out how to like move the monsters through that. And we're just like, let's do the same smell thing, but in this game, because he's a raccoon. He's obviously a raccoon. He can smell stuff, right? So we, like, if you find on YouTube the old Kickstarter version of the trailer, there is a smell-o-vision that you would be able to press a button and then you would see smell particles.
Wow.
It was different than what Witcher can smell, but like we wanted to make a proper smell that could move around and stuff like that, and that didn't make the game. And there are a couple of reasons for that as well, besides just game mechanics. Because like, if you will look at how the world building is done, you'll see that there are animals in the game. But this is not Zootopia. And the way it's not Zootopia is because Zootopia have biological determinism, where raccoon is good at smell and he likes garbage. A lion is like, he's just a freaking great guy. If you see a rabbit is always small and is always afraid. This is not in the world of Tails Noir. If you go at the very right side of Grenville Street, you'll see a very huge bunny named Bo, and he's there. He's like, we are working from a concept that all these creatures are like humans, and like what we actually do is class determinism. Yes, it looks like the apes are at the very top, and like the herbivores are at the very bottom and carnivores are in between. It's not because of the unique qualities of those species, right? It's not based on species. It's based on social construct that has been created in that world. Like they exist in a system that is tailored against them, like for characters, individuals, like they have their humanities, desires, weaknesses, and stuff like that, right? But the biological differences between species are purely visual. Bunny can be as tall as a lion and brave as a dog. Everyone eats the same food, wears the same clothes, and like gets the same treatment in the hospitals. Unless this is but it's also a totalitarian regime. So like the apes are at the very top. We are creating a neo-noir concept. Why it's a neo-noir? Because like the noir originally dealt with basic racist issues, where like a lot of immigrants came to the US and they started seeing different prejudices, right? And then there is a class differences that's also part of noir, but like we just took it to a different place because like noir doesn't really work. Like I cannot watch Casablanca anymore. Like it just, no, like it's a good movie. It's an old movie, but just it doesn't work in this world society. So like that's exactly what we did. We just like turn it over for like a different vision, for something that works for us, for our modern day and era.
I found that particularly interesting when you mentioned, someone like Roos and then Clarissa. Like Roos is a rat and Clarissa's a bear, and they're the same size. Yeah, it was so fascinating. Yeah. Like they're not even just a little bit smaller or anything. They're like literally, he might even be taller than her. I don't know. So that type of decision I find really artistically interesting for sure.
It does help create such an interesting world, and
there's actually lore reasons for that, and you'll find out those lore reasons in Preludes or in Act 3 if you're very smart.
I'm not very smart, and
I'm not either. Actually.
What do you mean? Tell us. That's when but I want to know. Can you tell us?
Do you want me to tell you?
Of course.
Yeah,
That's gonna be
that's
major.
not.
That's gonna be major spoilers.
I think it's only a spoiler if you will definitely find it. I think lore spoilers. I think if anyone in chat is really opposed to this, let me know. I might ignore you anyway. I'm joking. I think when it's like lore spoilers that you have to do certain things to find it, I think that's all right here. I'll just do a little hi everyone. We're gonna do a little bit of lore. If you want to find it yourself, I'll wave at you when we stop talking. It's not a game spoiler, I promise.
It is a little. It is. I think it's not only lore spoiler, but it's also a story spoiler because, like in Act 3, you find something that completely moves the story in a different direction.
I really feel really stupid right now because I want to know too, but then I don't want to. But I don't. Oh, I don't want to like.
Because I know what you mean in terms of Act 3, the discovery, but I don't know how that ties in with the fact that the mouse is the same rat as the same size as the bear.
I think we can tell. I think we can say. ADHD don't in the chat. We're vibing here. We want to know. Julia wants to know. I think we just share. It's fine.
I don't know what to do right now. Should I spill it or should I not?
I'm the boss here. It's fine. Yeah, go.
This is a post-apocalyptic story. This is a post-apocalyptic story. And all those animals are actually humans.
What?
And the things that you find in Act 3 and in Preludes are actually explained why that is the thing.
Wait a minute.
Whoa, okay.
I'm not going to say what I've just clocked because that is a really big spoiler. Wait, what? It's all
and like what we wanted to do as we moved forward, like if Tails Noir 2 ever happens, we're just like diving into this and directly like talk about why. And do you know why there is technology, why there is better technology in some places in this world and why not?
I thought it was a class thing.
Yeah,
it is a class thing.
Yeah,
it is a class thing, but like that's access to the access to technology and is better in other places because like those other places know more about what happened outside the wall.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to lie to you. My mind is really blown right now. So
I'm sorry.
My mind is. I have so many questions for you that I can't answer because they are really big spoilers. So I won't ruin it. And
that's why Clarissa actually wants it because that would help her change the order in the way she would want to change it.
I'm really stressed out right now in a good way. This is exactly this kind of stuff we want to find out in this book club. Like this, like don't worry if anyone's watching. I like to kidnap the devs afterwards if they let me, just for a little bit. Ask a few questions I can put in Discord and then censor it. So then if you haven't got there. Me, I don't mind the spoiler. Like I don't know why. I'm impatient, but yeah. No pressure, Julia. Do you have any questions to follow that?
This is so like my mind is going too, like because I'm looking at these sprites as an artist, and I know they have different they represent different animals, but I also know the structure of their bodies are very similar, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's like an actual creative decision or what was the decision behind those things. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, got it. Totally got it.
I remember we did a lecture on world building with anthro characters in Vancouver in 2021, I believe. Before COVID, though. I don't remember. Sometime in Vancouver, we did a lecture on this, and like we talked about why we did this and that, why the world of Zootopia doesn't actually work. It wouldn't work because like it's funny because like in Zootopia, the end twist there is that like herbivores have been manipulating the carnivores into getting a bad rep and like implying that the oppressed are actually able to weaponize a victim complex. It's just like this thing doesn't work. It's not. And like a lot of you go to Black Sad is like they do animals, but then they add color to that, and like it's just a mishmash of different story beats that could work, but like they don't work in together. And we're just like, how do we make a society that is believable and still has anthro characters in it? Because like we cannot make, like, it's already been done that like a raccoon can smell really nice, but like we want to make them as human as possible and like as relevant as possible to current society. How do you do that?
I had a question, again, a bit off topic, a little bit. I just wanted to know, before I get into questions from the audience, so this is where I was going with the smell. That, when I was like my favorite part, I was going to ask you, Nikita, what is your personal favorite part of the game? Is there a part of the game that you love? It's your favorite part, or is there a favorite thing, or is there what draws you to the? Do you know what I mean? What's your little
Parade?
Sorry?
Parade. The whole scene. I think that's the culmination and like the most perfect scene in the whole game. Visually, tech art, music wise. I was working with Aruj Aftab, a composer on the game, and this whole thing came together. The way we looped the music. If you actually spend as much time as possible in that scene, you will hear and see how it loops. And like it took me hours to make it into a perfect scene music wise, but like also everything works in this scene. Everything works. It's the most perfect scene that we've done, and I think it's just glorious.
It is a beautiful. I remember like that scene really stands out for me. Just because the things you notice. Because at first, you're walking along and it's just a normal street, and then things happen and you notice little things, and you're like,
I should call my mom.
I'm like, wow, okay.
What I really like is also a scene when you're hanging out with refugees and Larry comes to you and just like, do you want to do X, Y, or Z? And you're just like, I'm going to do X. And originally, we're like, maybe we should allow a player to make a decision there and like switch to one branch of a story, another branch of a story, third branch of a story. And then we're just like, the world doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. If you're against powers that are much stronger than you're just like, how did she say? You're just a fuck with an art degree. So like, that's what you are. The world doesn't wait for you, and things just happen. And I remember writing music for the bonfire sequence where a mother sits with the guitar and sings, and everybody is just like chilling there, and they're just like, this is the state of mind where I just want to stay. I want to reminisce, like I want to remember my parents, and like I am crying when I hear that song. And then things just.
That is a beautiful scene. Beautiful scene.
Thank you.
Before I get Julie to answer another question, before we go into the audience, what if you want?
Yes, I do have one.
What was I going to say? One thing we haven't spoke about, Nikita. How much music did you write for that game?
I think it's half and half. I think it's half and half. Everything that has lyrics on it, I wrote the lyrics at least. Or like the very first the song in the jazz club, I haven't done the lyrics for it, but like the music, I've done half. Like I've like and things where I don't know, like me and Aruj would try to just like,
oh my god,
we just try to blend things together. Like for example, the scene in the parade, I'm just like, I was working on this music and I'm just like, Aruj, I want to hear your vocal in here. And she's like, okay. And she sang a couple of vocalizations. I plugged them in, I looped them, and it goes and it works. A lot of I think everything that's in Warehouse was created by Arouge. I haven't done anything in there. It's like really menacing sound. Really loved it. But it's just like it's in between. I think it's like one nothing. I think for the prologue, everything for prologue I wrote myself. But like then we just like started working together and just like.
Well, the only reason I ask is because I was looking at the credits and just saw your name on all of them. I just wanted to give you a bit of shine for that because it's beautiful. And then in Preludes as well, you know the songs on the little chicka chick. It's not a chicka chick. The record was that written by you as well.
Everything in Preludes was done by me, and
music is amazing.
Thank you. And we had some guest artists coming in, and one of the songs was Anna Bow, who was in a jazz club section. She came back to Tails Preludes and she sang for us as well. Yeah.
I just wanted to I nearly forgot about it. I just really wanted to ask that question just because the music in the game is amazing. Like, you know, you walk into the club and you hear, you know, the jazz singer and it's really mind-blowing stuff. And then when I saw the credits and I saw your name, I was like, this is, and obviously it's written by someone, but to get to talk to you and it's anyway, I'm rambling. You're amazing. Julia, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I do have one more question. And Jazz, I do want to say thank you for mentioning that because we do want to give you that credit because it is incredible. The soundscape you created for the game, the ambience is incredible. Very well done.
And it's really got me.
Yes. I know you speaking of the game development, how and at the end certain things kind of you decided against doing certain things like later on in the game just because you said, oh, you know, there's the time and the energy, we need to finish this game. But there are those little things that don't really need to be in the game that are still in the game that I feel like are really charming. And I wanted to go back to it because we didn't really get to talk about it because we went off on something else. But yeah, that making of the tea, like you can pick the different kinds of tea and just that having those nice little moments like that. You know, that type of idea, where does the idea to add those little bits come from when you are just really trying to make it all the way through to the end of the game?
It all comes from the artist, to be honest. Like we were at least we attempted to be a very vertical structure. Obviously, like there has to be like an art director who directs everything and makes sure that like things are consistent, right? So like that was there, but our artists have put a lot of things that they wanted into the game. I don't remember who made the decision about the tea making sequence, but like the rest of the things are there. And I remember when we were making Preludes, we're just like, why don't we make a record player? We're just like, yes, let's do this.
I love the record player,
right? And like, if you look around, there are so many memes in this game that you might just not notice them. There's just like so much stuff that artists have hidden. Like there are numerous bongs across like.
I found one. I like clicked on it. I was like, I found one. You say numerous, I only found one.
There, if you have noticed in Preludes in the very first Howard sequence, when you meet Larry, there is a bong sound in this soundtrack as well. Go search for it now. But like. There are a lot of, like, for example, the characters in when you go into the living apartments in Act 2 and you meet two goth mice.
Yeah.
One of them says, I'm a crow. And this is a direct reference to a song of 1990 Russian goth singers. And it's just there.
I love the lore, and I love those little the little goths. I really, I don't know why, they really made me smile. It's one of those things that you kind of remember. It triggered a memory in my brain of something, but I can't remember what it is, and it's gonna get on my nerves. Um, I think we're gonna. What we'll do now is I'm gonna ask everyone. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask Nikita whilst they're here? And if not, I'll fill. Me and Julia will fill the gaps and just ask questions that they might not make any sense. Or Nikita can share lore with us. The little hidden memes, little funny things. But there is one question that I saved for later, from Wilder. They wanted to know, was there much concept art made for the game? Because they haven't seen much examples of that, like for smaller indie studios or like solo. Like, was there any concept art? How did that work?
For us, it was a bit different. Like, concept art is usually made when, for example, you're working on a 3D scene where you're just like, a concept artist draws, I want it to be like this. I want to see a bridge. So they draw a concept of a bridge, then they take it to a 3D artist. 3D artist just like converts that to a bridge and then put that in the game, right? For 2D games, it might be a bit of a different process. For us, for example, it was we called it a concept art, but in reality, it was just a 2D line art of something, an environment and a character, and then we pixelize it. So in reality, there were almost no concept art for us because we converted it all to pixel art. But there are a lot of like 2D well-drawn images of like Clarissa, of like the buildings that you see that are just converted to pixels after that.
Oh, that's really interesting. One of the things that it's not, I guess it's not quite a question because I know Julia touched on it earlier, and I think one of her questions is something that I ripped that I love, and then I saw Julia had kind of made a question out of it, but we've kind of covered it. I just want to talk about the water in the game. I'm a big fan of water in game. It's one of my things. Like, in every game, I run up to a puddle of water or I take notice of the water. It's something that I love. Like, I don't know if there's a question. I'm just gonna say I love it. Julia, is there a question on that is more technical, or Nikita, you just want to talk to us about?
Well, yes, please, Nikita, talk to us about it. No,
please.
Don't do that. Make my water.
Yeah,
a better question.
just water that's on the ground. It's also like the raindrops that like are on the lens, the so-called lens of the screen and everything. And I can only imagine how much work that is to do, and how important was it to nail those effects for the feeling of the game.
It is like that's how we made the most important presentation of the game, right? The very first of all, shout out to Radu. You're the greatest. Obviously, that's the best technical artist that you can find, and he did a lot of great work on what has been established as our visual desires. I remember when we were making a demo, I went to Unreal Engine forums and then been looking for a way to. I'm not a tech artist, so I was looking for a way and tutorials for a way to make raindrops on the ground, and we made a very basic vertex texture that you could just like draw texture that is wet, draw texture that is like not wet and stuff like that. So like I did that, I put it on the ground, and then when Radu came on board, he's just like, "This is terrible. You just no." I'm just like, I found the tutorial, and like he did so much important visual stuff on the game that it wouldn't look like this if it would be plain pixel art. Like in Unreal, there's a way to turn off a lot of like lighting and shaders. So like when you turn it off, like it still looks great. We even like made a very nice tweet when Twitter was a thing, with like shaders, no shaders, and it's really changing the visuals considerably. And the fact that we came out saying like pixel art high definition pixel art. Hey, but look, there's a lamp, and she's like, wow. So like that's the staple, the visual requirement for it to be Tails Noir. It has to be there. And same with water or snow. Do you remember in Preludes when you walk on snow, it remembers that you walk on it? Or like when you see spoilers, sand, you can like you look in the background, it's actually pixelized 3D like sand that just like goes back in the scene. It just goes there. There's a lot of things that are in the works there.
I'm sorry, as you can see, I'm squinting at my screen trying to read because I don't know. Yeah. Do you know what it is? This is like, because I can see ADHD and I have ADHD, my eyes just want to read that. And I'm trying to go past to the question. And I'm just super focused on the word ADHD. And it's, yeah, anyway. So the question is, there are so many really specific locked achievements. Was there a particular reason to keep them a secret? Did you not want to players to be led to play a certain way? Or is there another reason? Or is there not a reason?
A lot of them are story related. A lot of them are related to how Howard interacts with the different characters. You can be an asshole and you'll get an achievement for being an asshole. I don't want to tell the player that they can be, like, they know that they can be an asshole, but like, should I specifically tell you have to be an asshole throughout the whole game? No. But there are also some things that we just hit them. I think the tuna achievement is a hidden achievement. And there's a reason. And there's a reason because like the tuna is actually a prophetic tuna. It is.
Oh. I didn't listen to all his dialogue because there was a lot of it.
Yeah, you have to get the achievement.
Oh. Yeah. Is there any other like achievements that are? I don't want them to. Is it talk about achievement spoilers? They're not for me, but would anyone like not want to hear them? I'm going to ask anyway. Is there any like really like that? You know, listen to all the tuners. Has to say to get an achievement. Is there any like quirky little other achievement things hidden in the game?
Do you know that Howard, when he says like, "Hi, my name is," and he can like say his real name and his not real name?
Yes,
so there are 3 achievements. There are 3 achievements for that. There's achievements that you can get when you say your real name. There is achievement then when you always say that you are Brotor instead of Lotor. And there is a achievement when you just like mix and match.
That's so.
Oh, by the way, Howard Lotor is a Latin name for a raccoon. This is probably the only relevant piece of speciesism that you can find in the game. Like his name is actually raccoon in Latin.
I love this stuff. This is the Lord.
I was actually going to ask, as you were talking about it, like you could call him like the different names. Why Howard then? Is there a reason for Howard?
It's just like an old fart name that nobody.
Like, sorry, Howard.
That's the thing. He's like he is as.
If there's any Howards in chat, I am so sorry.
I'm sorry. It's
my opinion is not shared by the host.
At the use of the word of the name Howard, it's a very old name. It's not really used a lot these days, and like that's a part of his personality. He's just like he's kind of all over the place. He's very reminiscent of Harry Dubois from Disco Elysium. Because they're both a good representation of player. They can be XYZ, whatever player wants them to be, and they can be as silly as possible or as serious as possible, and neither of them are taken seriously by the people around them. Because like Howard, seriously, who wears like we are in something that looks like 50s in US. We are. A lot of people are wearing business suits, but like a lot of people, because it's also a retro futuristic environment, a lot of people just like don't do that, like goth mice, for example. And he's kind of young, but like teenagers don't react to me as they used to anymore. So like
He's
young
getting called
adults
old.
don't react to him anymore as well. It's just like, what are you doing here, Grandpa?
What you said that Howard can be silly, serious. Which Howard are you? What Howard do you relate to?
I'm depressed, Howard. I'm tired. I'm to be honest, I'm currently on a sabbatical. And I've been on a sabbatical for 4 months and I don't want to leave.
Mood.
The development of Tails Noir was very complex and hard. And if somebody doesn't know, EggNut as a studio, we are like closed. We're closed.
Yeah, I read that
in February because we lost our funding for a game that we were working on, and I was burnt out in the middle of development of Tails Noir. I was burnt out in the development of Tails Noir Preludes, and it's just like it's a never-ending story, and I'm trying to just like recollect myself. So like making games is hard.
Mm-hmm.
it is hard. I work at a studio myself, and I do HR, just a bit of jazz law, and I could never. When I was just gaming and playing games, I was like, oh, I'd love to make games. I take my hat off to you, Nikki, and you, Julia. I honestly could not. My little heart. That's all I'm gonna give you over there. What's I gonna ask? I had a question and it was so off topic again, and it's just flown out of my head. Julia, was there anything else that you wanted to ask?
You had mentioned, this idea that if there ever was a Tales 2, for instance, where does the story of Howard go? I mean, that would be super spoilers, but are there any broad strokes of what you would like that story? I mean, maybe not necessarily Howard, but any other character or anything like that to expand upon, like the way you did with Prelude.
I don't know if that would be spoilers or not, but like to be honest, like there's only one logical solution to that story. It's a story of revolution that is led by somebody with money, Clarissa, and somebody who wants to actually do a change, Renee, and somebody who just like a source of natural disaster, which is Howard.
He actually reminds me of. I'm reading a
that
book.
was a major spoiler, and you didn't recognize that. That's like, sorry.
Yes. It's okay.
Howard would come in the second game, right?
Interesting.
It would.
Very interesting.
He has to be like there's. It's basically an explanation of what is happening right now. Somebody with lots of money to intervene in the day-to-day life, somebody who wants to change, so activist Renee, and a global fucking fire, which would be Howard.
I want everyone listening that hasn't finished the game. If you have finished the game, I don't know if you're going to get to this. So you just said how it's going to be the next game, but something happens to Howard, and now I'm like, wait, is what I think is going to happen to Howard?
Yeah, pretty much.
After this, I need to ask you specifically if what I'm thinking is a thing, and I will let people in Discord know, but I will censor it. So I'm going to put massive spoiler in caps and then censor it, and then if you click on that is your own. One of the things I want to ask, I saw it somewhere, and you can go in as much detail as a little detail. You can just be like, that is just pulled out of the air. It's not nothing. I read somewhere, I think it was in your Discord, that one of the themes for the game was depression. Is that true? And how does that fit in?
It does. The main writer for it, Alex, she was going through depression that moment, and I hope she's okay right now. I think that she's much better than she used to be. Depression is it's kind of all over the place. It's not something that you clearly can recognize. You don't really know, is Howard depressed? And how then if he is, then how does he show it? But like the Act 3 character that interacts with Howard till the very end, uh, is that a signature of depression? We change, but we change nothing. Is that like something that works with us? Is this a discussion about society, or is it a discussion about the act of us within the environment that we live? And like, if that's a thing, then is that a reference to how we get the depression? There are a lot of themes related to depression. There is a mother who lost her daughter. There are characters that ended up in their positions, like Larry, who had to suffer through this because like Larry also got through substance abuse to get to where he is. And why does that happen? And like, we do uncover more in Preludes because like we had to expand on those thoughts. But like, depression is team of EggNut has been in like, we experienced crunch, even though we tried not to, and we praised ourselves for not being like in crunch state, but like some people still experience crunch. And like, there are issues because like a lot of people on team of EggNut were from Russia. Like, there were people from Canada, people from UK, there were people from all over the place, but like, there were people from Russia, there were people from like, and like, then they were fighting their government at that moment. And like, they also were going through depression because whatever they were doing didn't work. And like, a lot of us are artists. Artists experience depression on a day-to-day basis because what the fuck is this, right? And like, it's just not talked about enough. And like, the reason why I didn't have resources after a particular time in development of Backbone is also depression. We'll get there. It's a staple of modern day era. Everybody has it.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's like it's so different talking to people who make indie games and people who make AAA. They're all good for their different reasons, but you know, the indie games, you feel so much of the devs in the games. There's always parts of the devs that leak into the games, and it's sad, but it's quite beautiful that they're a lot more human. And I feel you. Like, well, I work at a game studio. You always try your best to avoid, you know, the negative sides of game development. But game development is real, and it's like it's quite a beautiful sadness that, you know, you're making games for us to enjoy and love, but it's hard for you to make. And this got really deep real quick. But I think it was important to spend a bit of time on that. But yeah, we've got 7 minutes left. This is, I said at the beginning, in our little private little chat, that, you know, the timing of these chats goes so
all over the place.
All over the place, and it's beautiful. I just wanted to ask anyone who's watching, is there any questions that anyone wants to ask? Anything. It can be like, as you can see, we don't necessarily follow a flow. It could be something that we discussed earlier. It could be something random. It could be something you saw on the floor that's interesting. This is your time. You've got 7 minutes to ask it. Julia, was there anything else you wanted to explore?
Yeah, just going back to this idea of indie game development and how difficult it can be, because as much as we'd like to try to detach ourselves from what we're making, I mean, that's part of the reason that makes them so amazing and unique and wonderful, is that we're so much a part of those things, and we've invested all this time and energy and heart and blood and sweat and tears into these things. So it can be difficult, really difficult, and putting it actually out there for, you know, feedback and criticism is extremely intimidating of a prospect to do. So anyone who does it, like, yeah, I mean, Nikita, you're my hero, you know, like anyone who does this, it's tough. But as Jazz says, it's so incredibly rewarding, and it's very, very much worth it. Although we do really have to try to take care of ourselves at the same time. So I'm glad to hear that you're resting, Nikita.
Yeah, and
it's Julia, you as a very public indie dev, like you know the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Jazzy.
No, I was just calling you brave. No, this is your space anyway. You can talk over me whenever you want. I'm here. I'm here for the rest of the year. So, like, honestly, you can talk as much as you want. People are gonna be sick of me.
Okay.
We got 2 quick questions, so you can answer them as quick as possible. Someone's asked about the why you changed from Backbone to Tails Noir. Someone else has asked. I think we might have briefly covered it, so you can keep it brief. On staying top of your Kickstarter goals. So if you got less than 5 minutes, because I want you to say your last words at the end, Nikita, but yeah, very quickly, could you answer those?
Okay, so the name change, it just happened. It just happened. It just happened. That's it.
Yep.
And
The second one?
Kickstarter. Yeah, what's the Kickstarter question?
Just very quickly, do you have any tips on staying on top of your Kickstarter goals?
Do as less as possible. Do as less as possible, and something that would be very memorable, very you. Just forget about T-shirts. Like they are always thrown in the back. Nobody wears them, especially if they're just like black and white. Nobody cares about this stuff. Like people do. People wear them. They like your merch. Do your merch, but if you manage to do something that is just like silly and very you, not importantly silly, but like something very you, do that. Especially if it's easier for you and cheaper for you, do that. When we were launching Kickstarter, we made meme pack and we sold it for $1. Like, you don't have money, but you want to support us? $1 meme pack with raccoons sent out right away. So like, we collect them anyway, we post them anyway. So like, we made it and we shipped it to people. That was easy. Like the rest of the things, we actually haven't managed to cover some of the Kickstarter things because we just didn't have resources, we didn't have money, and now we're closed.
Yeah.
Because like we wanted to do so much. We wanted to be like this and that. We made dioramas, we made T-shirts, we made posters, we made postcards. Like we tried to make as much money and see as many people to support us as possible. That we, created so many things. We actually couldn't fulfill all of them. So be careful.
Yeah, so the answer of that is be careful. We've got 3 minutes, so I just one thing I want to say is if you love this game, there is preludes and preludes. I know we touched it before, but it tells you how Clarissa, Renee, and I need to forgot Howard's name. Silly me, Howard and some other people that you don't really meet. It gives you a bit of backstory. It's really good. I played it first by accident. It's actually really good, I think, to play afterwards. It's really good. And I just want to thank you, Nikita, for your insight. Firstly, it's been amazing. Your personality, it's been great. But also, I can't speak for everyone, but I think I am. It's nice that you were like so brave of us. And I think it's important that these things are shared as well, right? They're hard stuff, but they're truths. And it was beautiful. So thank you. And is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to mention? This, you've got a minute to say whatever you want. This is your time to shine.
Okay. We've been saying this every single time we get a chance to say this. And it's not related to game development, but it's relevant to game development as well. Life is hard. Life is hard. Please take care of yourself. Make sure that if something doesn't work for you, you don't do that. Make sure that everything is as safe as possible. If you can get to safety, do that. If not, please at least take care of yourself in one way or another. And if you can, call your mom.
Julia, as well, I just wanted to thank you because
of course,
I am chaotic and insane, and I ask a bit of random questions. And thank you for your insights as well and your questions, and being able to get help me get get the best out of Nicholas because some of my questions are a bit chaotic.
No, it was a pleasure, and I just love talking to other devs, you know, because there's so much in common, and it's super like motivating and heartening to hear these other stories that I didn't get to hear before. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both for helping us draw out all the lore and the amazingness out of a truly incredible game. I find these, I like the games when I play them, but talking to the devs makes me love the games. And this is why we're doing them with the book club. And now I have to do my little thank you everyone for watching. It's not too late to join the book club. I forgot to get the link. If you want to join, go on to Intergames. It will be on there. We will be playing a different game every month. And if every month we keep having amazing devs, we've had 2 amazing devs, and if we get this all year, it's going to be a great time. So join us for the ride. Thank you so much, both. We're going to say goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.